Music. What makes a life tough? A life tough? I saw that film clip of Winston Churchill. Charles Bronson names the gay actors of old Hollywood he dated in secret. Charles Bronson is remembered as Hollywood's Man of Steel for his invincible hero roles. But behind the scenes, he held a secret. He was gay. According to journalists, Bronson was involved in 10 controversial relationships. One used his power to control him. Another threw a wild party that was accidentally filmed by a 16mm camera. And one even knelt to propose with a 10 million diamond ring before quickly turning into an enemy. Which A-list stars were Charles Bronson's lovers? Watch until the end, because the last name will shock you. 1. Marlon Brando, the devious trap in the darkroom. In Hollywood's underground, Marlon Brando was a storm no one dared to defy. He was a natural talent, but also notorious for his chaotic life. Brando saw people as games. And one day, his predatory gaze fell on Charles Bronson, the Man of Steel of the silver screen. Brando was obsessed with Bronson's cold masculinity. In his eyes, Bronson was not just a fellow actor, but a challenge. Brando would often tease him with half-serious, half-joking remarks. "I wanted to see how long you last before you break." Bronson initially ignored him, but gradually he started to avoid Brando. Everything exploded at a private party in the Hollywood Hills in the late 1960s. That night, Bronson was invited as an honored guest. Unaware that Brando had set a devious trap, Brando plied Bronson with drinks one after another. As Bronson began to stumble, Brando moved in close, put his arm around him, and pulled him toward a dark room at the end of the hall. The door closed, and darkness swallowed them both. A few nearby guests said they distinctly heard Brando whisper in a cold, low voice, "You're as strong as steel. I want to break you." Throughout the night, sounds from the dark room made the guests shiver. The thud of objects being thrown and smashed. Some said they even heard Bronson's screams for help, mixed with Brando's maniacal laughter, but no one dared to intervene. The host even ordered the music to be turned up louder to drown out the sounds coming from the locked room. When dawn broke, Charles Bronson emerged, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes so empty that no one dared to approach him. Right behind Marlon Brando strolled out a sinister smile on his face. He patted Bronson's shoulder as if he had just completed a morbid experiment. After that night, Bronson avoided Brando at every event. When they were forced to share a scene, he always kept his distance. A close friend revealed Charles was not the same after that night. He was quieter, spoke less, and his eyes always held a flicker of fear. But what if that shock was only the beginning? Because after Brando, another door opened, one with hidden cameras, secret filming plots, and a party that turned into a nightmare that almost cost Bronson everything. 2. Rock Hudson. The party filmed with a 16mm camera. Hollywood in the 1960s was full of extravagant parties, but the ones hosted by Rock Hudson were truly forbidden territory. It was a place where gay stars could take off their masks and live out their true desires and instincts. One night, Charles Bronson was invited by Rock Hudson to his Beverly Hills mansion as a guest of honor. The place quickly turned into a sanctuary of pleasure with red, Hawaiian flowing endlessly, jazz and twist music blending with laughter. Everything went on like a normal party until midnight. Bronson and Hudson disappeared from the living room, quietly entering the upstairs bedroom. No one knew what happened behind the closed door until weeks later, a chilling rumor spread. Someone had planted a 16mm camera in the bedroom, and the film had recorded everything courted. A few days after the party, Hudson and Bronson were shocked to hear that someone was selling a sensitive film in the underground, along with familiar veiled hints that pointed to 2 top Hollywood stars. Initially, both tried to deny it, but then a paranoia began to gnaw at them. Who was the one who planted the camera? Hudson suspected Bronson had secretly done it to use as blackmail later. Bronson, on the other hand, believed that Hudson, who was famous for his debauched parties, had set a trap to possess him. Another night at Hudson's mansion, the suspicion reached its peak. When they were alone, Hudson lunged at Bronson, growling, "You want to ruin me to get ahead? You're the one who put that camera there, aren't you?" The room exploded into a fierce fight. Lamps shattered, wine glasses spilled on the floor, and the 2 actors' curses were so loud that security had to rush in. After the brawl, Hudson and Bronson never looked at each other the same way again. But the biggest horror wasn't the physical injuries. It was that 16. It had mysteriously vanished. Rumor has it that MGM, the all-powerful studio at the time, secretly bought it and then buried it in their top-secret archives. A former MGM employee swore he once saw a film reel marked with the strange code RHCB music before it was transferred to the basement archives, which held all the documents that could destroy their stars. From that night on, both Bronson and Hudson lived in constant fear. The film reel was gone, but who could be sure it had been truly destroyed? It might still be somewhere in an old metal box. And just as that nightmare ended, another relationship quietly ignited, starting from a seemingly harmless test of strength. 3. Steve McQueen. A secret love that began with an arm wrestling match. In 1960s, Hollywood Charles Bronson and Steve McQueen were icons of effortless cool. On screen, they were often cast as rivals, but few knew that behind the camera, a secret love affair had erupted. starting with an arm wrestling match. During the filming of The Great Escape, 1963, McQueen and Bronson were famous for their realistic fight scenes. So much so that the director had to call cut multiple times for fear they'd kill each other. The on-set tension quickly spilled over into real life. Crew members said that after work, the two would quietly disappear to settle their disputes in a makeshift gym next to the Bavaria Film Studio in Germany. One evening, when the gym was empty, Bronson challenged McQueen to an arm wrestling match, a showdown to end their conflicts. Bronson's hand was as hard as steel, while McQueen smirked with a defiant challenge. They gripped each other's sweat dripping onto the mat. The match went on, transforming from a physical contest into a bizarre test. And then, in the heat of the moment, McQueen suddenly leaned in and kissed Bronson right as their hands were locked. Bronson froze, but didn't pull away. Instead, he let out a guttural laugh as if he had been waiting for that moment for a long time. After that night, McQueen and Bronson became inseparable. The film crew quickly discovered they were sharing a small hotel in Munich. They claimed they were roommates to save costs, an excuse that made everyone chuckle, as both stars had more than enough money to rent an entire floor of the hotel. The whispers spread even faster when a room service attendant caught McQueen, clad only in shorts, knocking on Bronson's door late at night. The next morning, they would both emerge in rumpled clothes, their collars wrinkled, sometimes even wearing each other's shirts. Their relationship quickly became a kind of underground power on set. McQueen, who was known to be difficult, became unusually humble around Bronson. But this very bond also brought violent fits of jealousy. Once at a rap party, McQueen saw Bronson laughing too much with a young actress. Immediately, McQueen threw his drink on the floor, rushed over, shoved a table, and screamed at Bronson, "You belong to me. Don't waste your time with those cheap women." The entire room fell silent. Bronson didn't say a word, just pulled McQueen out onto the balcony where they argued in the dark for almost an hour. When they returned, McQueen kissed Bronson right in front of everyone, leaving the party in stunned shock. The love between Bronson and McQueen was not calm. They would punch each other, tear up their hotel room, and then passionately make up. The cleaning staff often found chaotic scenes, shattered mirrors, rumpled bedsheets, and bottles strewn everywhere. One servant recalled, "Every night you'd hear crashing, growling, and then a long silence and heavy breathing." For them, there was no boundary between love and war. It was said that anyone who accidentally came between Bronson and McQueen could become fuel for a new explosion. And then, at a fateful party, someone dared to step into that dangerous zone. 4. James Coburn. The dangerous love triangle. On screen, Bronson, McQueen, and Coburn appeared together in legendary action films like The Magnificent Seven, 1960. But behind the camera, a tangled emotional web was quietly tightening, turning friendship into a fiery underground war. One summer night in 1966, Beverly Hills was bustling with an extravagant party hosted by a powerful producer. Champagne flowed, drugs were passed around in the dim light, and jazz blended with wild laughter. Charles Bronson sat quietly in a corner while Steve McQueen was busy flirting with a few young actresses. At that moment, James Coburn approached Bronson. He leaned in close and whispered something in Bronson's ear that made him let out a horse laugh. Coburn's hand rested casually on Bronson's shoulder, stroking it in a very intimate way. Unfortunately for them, McQueen saw everything. McQueen, known for his uncontrollable temper, rushed over, knocked the drink out of Coburn's hand, and yelled at both of them, "What are you two hiding from me?" The whispers began to rise. Bronson tried to calm McQueen, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of confusion. Coburn was provocative, like adding fuel to the fire. Just a second later, M.